Hello, welcome to the Manasplained podcast. I'm Connor. Today I'll be talking about Ayesha Tanaka. This card is kind of not great. It's 4 mana for a 2/2, just not a good rate. And the two effects on it are banding, and then you can tap to counter an artifact activated ability unless the controller pays white. It's not good. I decided to go with banding for the theme of the deck because the countering artifacts thing is just not going to come up all the time, because if someone's playing white, the effect just gets negated essentially. And like, maybe if someone's not playing white, you can counter someone's, like, if they tap a Soul Ring for 2 mana, if they're not playing white, you can negate that 2 mana. But that's just like not something I'd want to be doing. I just feel like that's kind of lame and kind of boring. So instead I decided to go with banding. And banding is confusing, so I'll try to explain it in the best way I can, just the simple parts. I'll get into the more niche interactions later, but this is just the spark notes of banding. So, when you go to attack, if you want to attack as a band, any number of creatures with banding, and then up to one without, can attack as a band. So let's say you have a 3/1 without banding, a 2/1 with banding, and a 1/1 with banding. You're attacking an opponent, and this is your band, and they have a 6/6 they're going to block with. You have a 3/1, a 2/1, and a 1/1, so you have 6 damage. So their 6/6 is going to die. And normally, you get to assign where your creature's combat damage goes in normal combat. But if you have the band, you get to assign where the damage goes. So you attack with your 3/1, your 2/1, and your 1/1, and they block with their 6/6. You get to choose where that 6 damage is going. So you could put all 6 of that damage on your 1/1, so your 3/1 and your 2/1 would stay alive, and their 6/6 would die. You'd only lose the 1/1, so it would be a beneficial trade for you, which is very good, but it's even stronger on defense. So when you're defending with banding, you only need one creature with banding, and then any number of creatures without banding can block as a band. And then it's the same thing. You get to choose where the damage goes. So say someone's attacking with a Colossal Dreadmaw. It's a 6/6 with trample. You again have the 3/1 without banding, a 2/1 with banding, and then let's say a 1/1 without banding. So the 3/1 doesn't have banding, the 1/1 doesn't have banding, the 2/1 does. When they go to attack with their 6/6, you get to block as a band. And normally, right, you would take 3 trample damage because you only have 3 toughness total. The 3 trample damage will trample over and hit you. But you get to decide where the damage goes. So you could instead assign all 6 of that damage onto your 1/1 without banding. So you'll still kill their 6/6 with trample. Your 1/1 will die, and none of the damage will trample over because you said all of the damage from that creature is just being put on the 1/1. So banding is very powerful, and it's very strong on offense and even stronger on defense. The issue is it's very confusing because it works separately on attacking and blocking. And Mark Rosewater, the creative designer, the lead creative designer at Magic right now, of R&D, he has a podcast where he talks about just stuff. It's called, like, I think it's called his Drive to Work podcast, and he did an episode on banding because a lot of people asked him about banding, and they want him to talk about it and why they don't do it anymore, and such. And he said that at one of the first ever Magic the Gathering World Championships, he was a judge at it. One of the most frequent questions he got was, how does banding work? And this was from top level Magic players all over the world. They understood how the rules worked because they were the best players in the world, and like, you need to understand how the rules work so you can understand niche interactions and find some kind of loopholes in the system to really get the maximum value out of every card. And so when the best players in the world don't understand how a mechanic works, it might be time to retire it. So that's why they retired it. But there are still old cards that have it on it that are legal in Commander, so I thought, why not just make a banding deck? So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I'm really trying to grow this channel. I want to reach out to more people. I want to try to do this full time at some point. So and maybe get down to like 2 or up to 2 videos a week. So yeah, please like and subscribe and comment. That would really help. And please let me know in the comments down below. Did I get any of the banding rules wrong? Because I probably will. I did like a couple hours worth of research on how banding works, try to like fully understand it, but I'm going to miss something probably. So let me know in the comments if I missed something or something like that. And then also let me know if you like the deck, if you like the video, anything. I would love to chat with you guys down in the comments. So for the deck breakdown, there's 10 banding cards outside of the commander. These are just creatures with banding, some 1/1s, some 2 mana creatures. and then 2 artifacts that can give banding to stuff, which is super good. Helps like just increase the amount of banding that you can use, so that when you go to combat, you can swing at multiple people with bands, and then you can block multiple creatures with bands. So I think that's good. Just have a good number of those to outside just the commander. And then to synergize with banding, I decided to go with what I'm calling Impervious. It's creatures that don't take damage or don't take combat damage, not just indestructible. There are some creatures that just prevent the damage that would be dealt to them. So the reason I think this synergizes really well, and it just works really well, is because if you're blocking with your band, right, and you want to kill their big creature, you can just block with impunity. If you have like some creatures that just can't take damage, you won't end up trading. They're just going to attack into you, and their creature's going to die. Or you can just attack with impunity, because like if they decide to block, your creatures will just can't take combat damage, or like have indestructible or something, so they'll be able to negate it, which is great. And then to synergize with this kind of banding, can't take combat damage, attack, block, all that, is Vigilance. I want to be able to attack and block with all of my creatures every combat on my opponent's turns and my turn, so that I can dish out a bunch of damage, block a bunch of damage. And because of that, you're going to be attacking people a lot with this deck. People are going to end up swinging at you. So being very strong on defense is kind of important to be able to keep your life total up while you're trying to dish out the hurt during combat. 4 protection spells. That's so you can protect some key pieces as well as your commander and some other creatures. I like the 4 protection spells a lot. I think they're very good in the deck. And then 1 win the game card. Now this win the game card is a surprise tool for later on. It also adds mana, and it synergizes with all the combat stuff. I probably just gave it away for a bunch of you, but I will reveal what that card is later. Now for the breakdown of the deck, that just makes it more consistent, with 10 draw, 10 ramp, 9 removal, 3 wipes, and 37 lands. Normally I like to run an even number of lands, because I just like how I like seeing the even number. It's pretty. But because of all the combat shenanigans I'm going to be doing in this deck, I decided to throw in Mesavith, which for the people that don't know or don't remember, it's a land that doesn't produce mana, but you can tap it to remove a creature from combat. It makes it so that the calculus when people are blocking or attacking is more complicated, and I just wanted to add it to just make the deck's combat steps more complicated, because why not? The draw is really interesting in this deck because I decided to do Monarch for the draw. I think it's really fun because I know we're in Azorius, so the draw could be good, but because we're in blue, you get good card draw. But I thought, nah, let's just do Monarch, because Monarch's fun. So I have a bunch of Monarch cards in there to kind of be thematic with the attacking and blocking, and I really liked how the deck came together. I wasn't sure when I started building it because the commander is kind of bad and banding's really weird. But yeah, I think the deck really came together really nicely. So that, when you add up all the categories, that's 104, which means 4 crossover cards, or cards that fit into multiple categories at once. It's really low. I like getting the crossover cards to at least 10 or higher. That way I have more cards that are more versatile in the deck. They fill more slots and they might synergize with more options here or there. So having 4 is just kind of low, and it's not great, but it's a compromise I had to make to keep the theme of the deck and keep the deck doing what I wanted it to do. So the first category, as you could probably guess, is banding. I'm going to talk about all the different banding creatures and the 2 artifacts that give banding that I have in the deck for the next bit. So these are the 3 one mana creatures that give banding. Camel, unfortunately, is a 0/1, so it can't deal damage, which kind of sucks. But Helm of Chatsuk and Baton of Morale, both are artifacts that can give banding to other creatures, which is really useful because, say, you want to attack with a bigger band, put some more of your indestructible or creatures that can't take damage, put them together, some other ancillary creatures that don't have banding. You can make bigger bands with them with creatures that don't have banding normally, and I think that's just super useful, super helpful to get to the theme of the deck and do what the deck's trying to do. And then the other 5 cards in the banding category are all the 2 mana options that give banding. Errant of Duty is really interesting because it's an instant, so you can cast it on other people's turns and surprise with a banding creature, which is really, really fun for like doing some surprise blocker shenanigans. And then Mesopegasus, I think, is probably the best banding creature in the deck because it does flying. So a weird interaction with banding and like evasion effects is, say I'm attacking you with Mesopegasus and then Shield Bearer. You can still block both of my 2 creatures with a creature without flying, because since it's attacking as a band, the flying from Mesopegasus doesn't get transferred over to other creatures. So if any single creature in your band can be blocked, the entire band gets blocked, which banding makes evasion effects like Skulk or Shadow or Flying or just unblockable. It makes them so much worse. But what it does, it makes it even stronger on defense, because say you attack with a flying thing and I decide to band together Mesopegasus and Shield Bearer to block it. Say you're attacking with a 2/2 with the flying, and I put Mesopegasus and Shield Bearer together. I can block the 2 damage of your 2/2 with flyer and put that on Shield Bearer. Neither of my creatures die, because I have a creature in the band that can block your creature. So it makes evasion effects on attacking worse, but it makes them stronger on defense. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. It also makes, like I explained earlier, trample like a lot worse for your opponents when you're defending. But it makes trample kind of like better for attacking, because you can, when you attack with your entire band, you can decide to kill off the weaker creatures with all the damage your opponent would be dealing, and then you can still chuck all the trample damage and keep like your big trampling creature alive. So yeah, like I said earlier, banding's really powerful. It's just quirky and old, and no one talks about it anymore very often, for good reason. It's very weird. So the next category I'm going to talk about is Impervious. These are the creatures that won't take combat damage. They'll negate it in some way or fashion, through indestructible or just saying prevent damage. So yeah, I really am happy with this category. I think this is the category that really brings the deck together. It makes it so that you can block with impunity and attack with impunity. None of your creatures are going to die, because you can just redirect all the damage onto your creatures that just won't take damage. So the first 5 creatures of this category all prevent damage that would be dealt to them. Runetail is different, because if you have 30 life, when you play it, it immediately flips and then prevents all damage dealt to all your creatures. So it's a universal effect for your entire board, so you don't just need one creature that can prevent damage. All your creatures now prevent damage, which is crazy. Phyrexian Vindicator is probably one of the best cards in the deck, because for 4 mana, it also prevents damage, but then you get to redirect it. It's also flying in a 5/5, so it's a really good blocker. And with banding, you could block something really big and force all the damage onto Phyrexian Vindicator. Or if you're attacking and you attack with Phyrexian Vindicator and the 1/1 with banding, you can just like choose to put all of the damage onto Phyrexian Vindicator in that way. Like, it's so good in this, and I just think it has so much value. And when you redirect the damage, it's any other target, which means you can snipe other people's creatures, you can kill their planeswalkers, you can hit face with the direct damage. Phyrexian Vindicator is just so good. Also, I find it hilarious that Dawn Elemental and Phyrexian Vindicator, like the power creep there, they both cost 4, and they both have flying, they both prevent damage, but Phyrexian Vindicator is a 5/5, while Dawn's a 3/3, and then Phyrexian Vindicator redirects the damage. Like, the power creep there I just find hilarious. So 4 of the next 5 cards all have Indestructible, which is just great with the banding, and the same reason the prevent damage stuff's great. And then Loyal Unicorn's a little different. It has Lieutenant, which means its effect doesn't activate unless your commander's out, but it does the prevent all damage thing and gives Vigilance, which is the next strategy I'm going to be talking about. And yeah, so it does both things. It does the prevent damage and does the Vigilance, just like Heliod, God of the Sun. The thing about Loyal Unicorn is it only does it on your turn, so you can't really attack with it and then dump damage onto it, because it'll die. It doesn't prevent damage on other people's turns. But yeah, Heliod and Loyal Unicorn, both giving Vigilance and damage protection that way, are both awesome. And then Stuffy Doll is like Vindicator, but it doesn't target. So when there's a battlefield, you have to choose a player, and then the damage dealt to Stuffy Doll is dealt to that player, which means that since there's no targeting when that happens, it gets around Hexproof and Shroud. Like if if a player has one of the ley lines out that just gives them Hexproof, or the Planeswalker that gives them Hexproof, Stuffy Doll gets around that, so you can still deal damage to them. So I just think that effect's great, and yeah, I think all these cards go really well in the deck and synergize really well with banding. So I made Vigilance a distinct category, because I think it works really well with banding and then the creatures that can't take combat damage or have Indestructible, because it lets you swing with impunity and then block with impunity, and then banning lets you redirect the damage so your creatures don't die. I think having Vigilance letting you like block and attack with your creatures just gives you so much versatility and lets you use your combat step really efficiently and effectively, and then lets you have shields up so that when people want to crack back at you because you attack them, you can block it. So yeah, I think Vigilance as its own distinct category is really important to help the deck flow and use the combat step in the way it should be. So the first 5 cards of the Vigilance category, they're all just generic give Vigilance, but Brave the Sands, I'm not sure if this works, but I think it'll let your banding or your band block an additional creature. Not 100%. If someone in the comments or someone watching this video knows how that works, could you let me know in the comments? I'd love to hear from people that might know how that works. Even if it doesn't work the way I want it to, I would still leave it in the deck because it's just like Sarah, it's Blessing, but with that little bit of extra bonus there. And then Always Watching Thrabian Watcher have an Anthem effect. They buff up your team. They give it +1/+1, so you can deal more damage. And then Oathsworn Giant, it makes everyone's butts a little bigger. Not as useful because you're still going to be redirecting the damage to creatures that can't take damage, but in case they get killed by like a removal piece that destroys them, you'll have your creatures with bigger butts, so you'll be able to block better and redirect the damage in ways that you wouldn't lose your creatures. So these are the last 4 cards of the category. You've already seen Heliod and Loyal Unicorn. Angelic Field Marshal is interesting because it has Lieutenant like Loyal Unicorn, but it gives a +2/+2 buff, so it lets your creatures deal more damage. It's really great. I think Angelic Field Marshal goes really well in the deck. Also is flying, so it lets you block with banding more efficiently, lets you hit flying creatures, even though like with a giant band, that like because you only need 1 creature with banding on defense, like if you had Angelic Field Marshal and Heliod, and then your commander out, you could block a flying creature with this band and then put all the damage into Heliod. So it just gives you really efficient blocking. And then Drum Bellower is really interesting because it doesn't give Vigilance, it untaps on other people's turns, which lets you use your commander's other ability to counter the activate ability of artifacts. So it's not going to come up very often because like I feel like having it up as a blocker will be more efficient than countering the Soul Ring's activated ability like from the non-white player. Sometimes that will come up, and sometimes you'll just shut them down for a turn because of that, and that'll be really useful. But you're going to want to have to keep it up to block because everyone's going to be attacking you because you're going to be attacking everybody. So Drum Bellower synergizing with the second part of the commander I think is kind of interesting and worth an include in the deck. So protection, I only have 4 protection cards, but I think they're really good. 2 of them are for protecting your creatures, and then the other 2 are for protecting all of your permanents. I think it's a really good protection package, and I think you don't need to protect against board wipes and stuff, because if a board wipe happens, then other people won't be attacking you, and you'll have time to redeploy your defenses. I think it's important to have protection against like spot removal, so that your defenses are up and they can't just pick it apart and then swing in. So yeah, I think this protection package is very good. So these are the protection spells. Rebuff the Wicked and Turn Aside, both 1 mana, and then just counterspell that targets a permanent you control. They're great. They're the same card, just in white and blue, and they are so good. For 1 mana, being able to just axe a spell, like someone casts like a Doomblade or something else, just a kill spell, you go, nope, not happening. Or if someone has like a Casualties of War that targets a bunch of your stuff, and you can just go 1 mana, not happening. So good. And then Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots just haste, so you can attack the turn they enter, which is great, and then Hexproof and Shroud to stop the interaction from your opponents. I think this protection package, while being only 4 cards, is very good. So the next category is Win the Game. There's only 1 card in this category, but I think it's a very fun card and a very thematic card to add. I'm really happy I added it. It's Strixhaven Stadium. Some of you probably guessed it earlier when I alluded to it, but it gives you points when you deal damage to other people, and then you lose points when you take combat damage from other people. So it's this give and take of like dealing combat damage, playing defense, stop the combat damage. It's supposed to be Quidditch from Harry Potter, but I think it's really great, and I think it really synergizes well with the deck, with being on the Vigilance, with the banding and attacking and blocking. I think it just thematically fits so well, and it doesn't just win you the game on the spot, it kills a player. It's player removal, which is hilarious. I think player removal is so funny. Door to Nothingness, one of my favorite cards, just removes a player from the game. it can be a feel bad, but like you have to really work for this, and you have to have good defenses and put up a good fight. So I think it's a really funny card to put in the deck, and if you get a win with this, oh, you're gonna or just get like one person out of the game with this, you're gonna feel so good. So in theme with attacking blocking, because we're in Azorius, you do have access to good card draw, but just putting in a generic card draw package from Blue or Azorius just didn't feel right. So I went with Monarch. Just a bunch of Monarch cards because you want to attack and get the Monarch back and then block to keep it. And I thought it was just really a fun way to do card draw in this deck. And there's some Monarch payoffs that'll really like help you churn through cards and give you more advantage. So these are the creatures that give you Monarch that I put in the deck. They're all have their own ups and downs. For example, Palace Sentinels just does Monarch, doesn't do anything else, but it can snake it from someone else if someone takes it from you, which is great. Palace Jailer being temporary removal, not the biggest fan of temporary removal. I don't usually add it to the removal category when I have it in the deck because I don't like the temporariness of it. If I'm removing something, I want it gone. And I want my opponent to have to really work for it to get it back, not just like kill one of my creatures. So yeah, I don't count for removal, but it's a nice little upside to also getting the Monarch. Archivist of Gondor is really interesting because unlike the other ones, it doesn't give you Monarch when it enters. You have to deal combat damage with your commander, but you don't have to deal it to the person with the Monarch. So you can get the Monarch just from the board to yourself by hitting any player with your commander, which is fantastic. But the other issue with Archivist of Gondor is that whoever is the Monarch draws an additional card on their end step. So they draw 2, which is just... If you don't have it, you're just giving other people free cards at that point, so it's really risky, but it could make games fun. And then Azure Fleet Admiral and Keeper of Keys are great because they let you attack to get the Monarch, but you can't be blocked. Like Azure says, when it can't be blocked by creatures the Monarch controls, so it's a free attack in, so you're not going to want to band it, because if you give it banding... or if you band it with another one of your creatures, it's going to be able to be blocked. So this card is just to get Monarch and help you keep it. And then Keeper of the Keys lets you swing with impunity if you're the Monarch because all of your creatures become unblockable, which is so good. Oh my god, that's so awesome. So yeah, I really like this Monarch package I have going here. And then some other Monarch cards are the Monarch payoffs. These are the courts. There are 10 of them total, 2 in each color. I think so. And they all give you Monarch when they enter, and then they have effects on your upkeep, and then if you're the Monarch, they have bonus effects on top of that. Like Court of Grace makes a token on your upkeep, but if you are the Monarch during your upkeep, you get a better token. Yeah, and they all do stuff like that, which is really fun, and it'll make everyone like attack each other more because the Monarch will be going around. Hopefully you'll be keeping it. Yeah, so I think that's really fun. And then Infiltration Lens, it makes your opponents not want to block your creatures because you'll get to draw 2 cards. So someone's the Monarch, they got to decide, well, do I want to let them draw the 2 cards now or let them get the Monarch to draw the 1 card? It gives your opponents like tough calculus during combat. And yeah, Infiltration Lens just also when you're attacking in general, you want to be dealing damage to people, get their life total low through combat. Infiltration Lens makes it so they're more willing to take that damage than to give you the cards. But you want the damage or you want the cards. And the issue with cards like that is usually your opponent's going to pick the option that's worse for you. But in this deck, I don't think that's that bad because of all the other ways to draw cards with all the other Monarch cards and such. So yeah, I like Infiltration Lens in this deck a lot. Also, it's just 1 mana equip 1, so that's great. So the next category is ramp. Because we're in Azorius and don't have green, it's not as much land ramp as I like. I like land ramp because it's safer. It's less likely to be removed because of Rule 0. I have played against a little land destruction before, and I don't mind it that much as long as you're like winning the game if you're destroying lands and stuff. But yeah, so it runs less land ramp that I'd like, but I still run a couple of cards to get you lands out because I prefer it to artifact ramp. So these are the 2 mana artifacts in the deck that ramp you. Obsidian Obelisk is interesting because it adds 1 mana of any color, but you can only cast a multicolor spell, which is important because your commander is 2 white, 2 blue. There's no generic in it. So Obsidian Obelisk can help you get it out faster that way. That being said, Mind Stone doesn't add to the colors, but it's just tapping to sacrifice to draw. Later on, if you don't need it anymore, you can just draw the card, get rid of it, cycle it essentially, so that's super useful. Azorius Signet, Sky Diamond, Marble Diamond all creating colored mana because you're going to need that to help cast your commander because your commander doesn't have any generic. And then the spicier ramp, we got Soul Ring. I know it doesn't make colored mana, so it doesn't synergize with the commander very well, but you gotta run Soul Ring. It's so powerful. Already saw Strixhaven Stadium, probably one of my favorite cards in the deck, just because it's an alternate win condition. It's very fun. Arcane Signet, one of the most strongest ramp artifacts in Commander, so you gotta have it. And then Burnished Heart and Wayfarer's Bauble, just land ramp that's super useful. I really like these cards. Now for the removal. So because we're in Azorius, I should be running counterspells. I don't like counterspells. I understand that they're like a necessity to stop like spell-based wins. Like if someone's going for a giant finale of, you'll need a counterspell to stop it. I don't know. I don't like control very much, and even if I'm playing a control deck, I don't run counterspells. Maybe that's just the Naya in me. Not a big fan of them. So the removal doesn't have any counterspells. It feels bad, but oh well. So here are the 4 1-mana removal. You've seen them before in my other videos. If I'm running white and or blue, I'm running all of these because they're just so efficient. 1 mana getting rid of a creature is so good because most of the time there's a creature in everybody's command zone. So because of that, like just being able to destroy someone's commander for 1 mana, the tempo gain you get on this is insane. And Swords and Path to Exile, exiling, getting around indestructible, also so amazing. So yeah, if you have white or blue in your deck, seriously consider running these. They're fantastic. And then the other removal I have in the deck, Gen Gift, Ravenform, Stroke Midnight, Dismantling Wave, all at the 3 mana slot. Dismantling Wave, love that card because you get to destroy an artifact on each opponent's board. So it's like a pseudo board wipe, not really, but if you want to, you can cycle it to just axe all artifacts and enchantments. So it's a real board wipe when you need it to, and a pseudo board wipe when you just cast it for the 3 mana. I need to be running this in all of my white decks. I don't have it in all of my white decks right now, but I need to put it in. This card's awesome. And then I threw in Heliod's Intervention because I wanted to be able to have more targeted removal to be able to get more things, and Heliod's Intervention, just letting you hit multiple targets depending on how much mana you pump into it, is fantastic. And then yeah, Gen Gift and Stroke of Midnight hitting, Generous Gift hitting a permanent, and Stroke of Midnight hitting a non-land permanent and replacing them with a token. Oh, so good. You can, being able to like even hit a Planeswalker with it, like, oh, it's so good. Again, recommend Stroke of Midnight and Generous Gift in all your white decks. So the next category I'll be talking about is board wipes. There's only 3 board wipes in the deck, and one of the board wipes I didn't know existed until building this deck, and in more decks with like tinier creatures, I'm going to consider running it more because I think it's kind of cool. So these are the 3 board wipes, and the board I was talking about that I didn't know of until I built this deck was Retribution of the Meek. Like in a white weenie deck or a deck with like a low to the ground curve or like a tiny Boros deck, oh my god, this just destroys everybody else's creatures. It's so good. It's Elspeth Sun's Champion -3, just on a sorcery for 3 mana. It's fantastic. Also running Elspeth Sun's Champion, because this card's amazing. It's so strong, and if I ever get that emblem off, all my creatures gain +2/+2 and flying with the banding is going to be cracked. Now for the lands. As per usual, I will not be showing all of the lands, just the lands I thought it was worth mentioning. So Fabled Passage represents all of the fetch lands I have in this deck, like Evolving Wilds and Terraforming Expanse, and yeah, just because I want to be able to get the colors I need to be able to cast my commander. Mystic Gate, love Mystic Gate. I love the filter lands. I also have the one where it's like the Signet land that you pay a generic and tap it to add a white and a blue. I really like those lands. I put Sea of Clouds in because I said in the last video, I'm going to say it in every video, like Wizards, put the Battle Bond lands in all of the commander precons. Like I said last time, they're designed for multiplayer gameplay. So put them in the multiplayer stuff. Anyways, and then Path of Ancestry, probably my favorite land in Commander. The Scry is fantastic, and it being 1 mana of any color, I don't mind it entering the battlefield tapped because I find the Scry, the value from that outweighs it just entering tapped. And then Maze of Ith. Yeah, I think Maze of Ith is going to be really good in this deck, being able to untap in case like I make a mistake, be like, oh shit, that's not good. I don't want this to happen, so I can get someone out of combat if I don't want them in there. Yeah, so Maze of Ith will let me fix the mistakes if I make any mistakes on attacks because the deck, because banding's complicated and rules and stuff. And then it also lets me, if someone's just going to swing with a giant creature and I don't have enough defense up, I can just stop them from doing that. So the maybe category, 5 cards in the maybe category. I wanted to put him like always. You have to cut down to 100, and then like the last 10 cards is always the hardest. And these were 5 of the 10 cards I thought were worth talking about. So I didn't put in Fall from Favor because I had enough Monarch cards, and I didn't really like this one. I like my Monarchs being on creatures or having really cool effects like the Courts. So yeah, I didn't really like Fall from Favor in the deck. Austere Command, there was better board wipes with the other 3, and when I first put Austere Command in, I didn't realize, like, I was trying to add the ones that destroyed toughness like 4 or greater, and I was like, oh right, Austere Command's mana value. It's just not as good for what this deck's going to do, so I cut it. Blightsteel Colossus and Approach of the Second Sun. So these would be win conditions, right? Blightsteel Colossus, big trampoline, infect, indestructible, so I can put, like, it works super well with the whole kind of like banding thing with the dealing damage, blocking, and all that other stuff. It's 12 mana, it's an expensive card, and God, the card is so insane. It's like so powerful, so strong, but like it's too expensive. And Infect is one of those things that I don't just want to run unless like I have a very good reason to run it, because it's kind of I don't know, it leads to a lot of feel bads for a lot of people, and I want my decks to be fun to play and fun to play against and have as few feel bads as I possibly can, which is also the reason I cut Approach of the Second Sun, because at the same time it's just a feel bad, kind of like an alternate win condition that's a little cheesy and a little too free sometimes. Also, this deck doesn't have enough card draw in order to make Approach of the Second Sun work. And then Terramako Griffin. It is a banding flyer, and I only have 1 in the deck. I probably should be running more, but I wanted to keep the creatures and the banding effects low mana value so that I could have a good curve and afford all of the more expensive stuff that I'm playing that gives me vigilance and makes stuff not take combat damage. So yeah, these are the 5 cards that were at the end of the cut list. So let me know what you thought. I tried to do the video a little differently than my previous videos. I don't know how much differently it's going to come across. I feel like I changed it up slightly. I don't know. Let me know what you think about like my videos. I'm always looking for feedback, positive or negative. If you want to roast me in the comments, tell me I'm trash. Love to hear it. If you want to tell me I'm great, I'd also love to hear it. Probably prefer that one. But no, seriously, I'd love to hear a lot of feedback on the deck building, what cards what cards I should be adding, what cards I shouldn't be adding. Did I miss an interaction? Did I add a card that just ruins the deck or whatever? Like, I'd love to hear you guys in the comments. So yeah, please comment down below. And then these are my socials. I post on Twitter when I'm going live on Twitch, and when my YouTube videos come out on my YouTube channel. I'm going to make TikTok content at some point. I just don't know what I'm going to do yet. I might do my reactions to new commanders. I'm thinking that. I might make shorts with, hey, here's a commander, like talk about like the commanders I'm building and the fun card interactions they can do. I'm posting on my Reddit account. I didn't get much traction over there, so I'm going to keep posting my videos to my Reddit account. I might try posting to other subreddits and see if I can pull some traction there. And then, as always, my deck lists are on Architect, and my deck lists are also on Moxfield. I don't build on Moxfield. Someone in my comments of one of my other videos said I should post my deck lists to Moxfield. So I'm doing that now, but I primarily build on Architect, and then I cross-post my decks over there, just so more people can see the deck lists. So thanks for watching, and as always, get building, splainers. That is so